Oh, looks like we are live and ready to go. So I'm excited to be here today. Everybody, thank you for joining us for a content marketing webinar. We have a powerhouse marketing duo joining us today. So I know you guys are going to be excited to hear from Michelle and Alyssa. So I just like shortened your name into like one giant content marketing superhero, which is, I guess, the way that I think about you guys. But that's a little weird. So you guys are coming at us today from Orange County and or Portland. I'm trying to get that straight because I know the human agency is in Orange County. So makes a lot of sense. With work from home today, you just never know where people are going to be. But let's jump right into it. So today we are going to be talking about content marketing for small business. And I'm super excited. I have to say, guys, I took a peek at the slides. Maybe I wasn't supposed to do that. Sorry, Alyssa and Michelle. But there's a lot in there. It's really power packed. So we're gonna jump into it straight away. And I just want to say, folks who are joining us for the webinar today, make sure you stay till the end. Because when I took a sneak peek at the slides, I know there are some tips at the end that I'm going to be using. And I know that you guys attending the webinar today, they're going to be super impactful for you too. So quick introduction before we jump into it. First, we have Alyssa Crabbe. So Alyssa Crabbe is the content and SEO director at Human. And I know the Human Agency does some good work. I've admired them for a while and the work that you guys do. But Alyssa oversees the agency's content development, and she supports her team in growing organic traffic and revenue for clients. She's passionate about developing thoughtful, data-driven SEO and content strategy for her clients. And then also we have Michelle Leung. Now, Michelle is the senior marketing manager at Human, and she's a key contributor to the content department at the Human Agency. She's an experienced content marketer with a passion for brand development, and she loves to help small and medium-sized businesses grow organic traffic and secure top positions in Google's results. Now, I know that that's something all of us want. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you drop some knowledge here.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Dale. I'm going to go ahead and share our presentation and we'll jump right in. Ooh, slight technical difficulties. All right, here we go. Great. So to piggyback off of Dale's intro, we are Alyssa and Michelle. We're from Human, a full-service digital marketing agency based in Orange County, California. The agency was founded in 2015, and while we are full-service digital, some of our key focus areas include content and SEO, web design and development, paid, email marketing, and a lot more. So we work with clients in a lot of different industries, ranging from e-commerce to technology, professional services, and a lot more. And a big part of our success with these clients, variety of sizes and industries, revolves around the content and SEO strategies that we build for them. So we've seen a lot of different verticals and niches, but through our years of experience, we've come to realize that there are some patterns in the strategies and tactics that bring success in the form of organic growth, keyword rankings, and revenue. So today we're excited to share some of our best practices and learnings over the years with you so that you can replicate this type of strategy in your own business. So to start us off, I want to do a mini crash course in topic clusters. So this is the content strategy that we employ with basically all of our clients, regardless of size or industry, and it's worked really well for us. So the term topic clusters was made popular by HubSpot starting in around 2017. And at its core, topic clusters is all about writing groups of content focused around certain subjects that your business knows really well, instead of focusing on individual blogs that might focus on long tail keywords. So when you link together similar content on your site in a strategic way to create these clusters, Google recognizes this as a signal of breadth and depth, basically that you know your stuff. You have lots of content linked in a strategic way that builds these relationships with your content. And companies like HubSpot have done extensive research on topic cluster based strategies and found that they nearly always place better in the search engine results page than content without strong internal linking practices. And while Google doesn't necessarily explicitly mention topic clusters anywhere in their ranking guidelines, they do make it very clear that they prefer to rank topic centric content that helps users find the information that they are looking for in a clear and helpful way. So, at its core, it's about writing content that your audience truly wants to read and linking that all together to create that relationship between the content. So, in our experience, this has been the most successful content strategy that we've employed, again, for different industries. And we'll provide a couple examples of those success stories for you. To give a visual example of what I just explained, because it's a little technical, this is what a website's architecture might look like without topic clusters. So all of these little shapes in these circles are blog posts. You might have a lot of blogs on your website, but if you aren't linking them properly, they look a little bit random. You might even be talking about topics that are similar, but if they aren't linked and building relationships with each other, Google has trouble understanding what exactly you are an expert in. So as a result, you might have a lot of content, you're not really seeing the results that you're wanting. This could be a reason why. This is an example of that same content strategy put into topic clusters. So this is an example of one of our clients that we'll talk more about in a few minutes, Thompson Tea. They make sweatproof t-shirts. So some of the clusters that we focus on for them are sweatproof shirts, body odor, deodorant, sweat stains. But in this approach, you see that there's a single pillar page acting as the main hub of content for each topic, and then multiple blog posts all related to that topic that link back. So this linking action signals to search engines that this pillar page is your most important page. And over time, you'll start to rank higher and higher for it as Google recognizes that authority and credibility and trust. So your pillar page can be a product page, it can be a high converting blog post. Just think of your pillar pages as your VIP pages that you want to drive the most traffic to. So whether you're starting from scratch or maybe you have a lot of content, but you just want to reorganize it into clusters, which we could do a whole separate webinar topic on because that's a whole nother beast to tackle. Regardless, this strategy is what we found brings the best results, makes it easy for Google to crawl your content and understand the context, and gives users helpful groups of content that they can learn the topics that interest them. So now we'll go into our first example, and Michelle will take it over from here.
Awesome. Thanks for providing that background, Alyssa. So next we'll be diving into one of our e-commerce clients that sells a niche product, and we previously mentioned this in the example, and that's a client called Thompson Tea. And just to provide a little bit of background on this company, so Thompson Tea is a small e-commerce company that makes patented sweatproof undershirts. And these shirts are specifically designed to help with underarm sweat. So it does sound silly, but it's actually a really serious problem. And there is a group of people with this medical condition called hyperhidrosis. And that's the term for a medical condition for excessive sweating. And additionally, there's also a population of folks that may not have this condition, but maybe they still struggle with sweat on a daily basis. Even studies show that sweating conditions can significantly and negatively affect one's lifestyle, their confidence, their performance at work, their ability to interact in social situations. So while it seems a little embarrassing, it's a big deal for some people. So enter the Thompson Tea, and this shirt was developed by two guys who have hyperhidrosis themselves. You may have even seen this product on Shark Tank. It was featured a few years ago. So far, they've cultivated a niche, loyal customer base, especially from the hyperhidrosis community. But all that said, you don't have to have this medical condition to realize the benefits of wearing this undershirt. So with that in mind, and with a goal to just grow brand awareness and increase visibility and grow market share, That's what our agency has been tasked to do, with helping them, create a full funnel marketing strategy that includes content to help drive traffic and more revenue for their business. All right, so just to get a lay of the land of what we're working with here. One, we know that the technology in the undershirts is patented. It's called Hydro Shield, and it's the shield under the arms that kind of traps the sweat and prevents it from showing and having stains on your outer shirts. So we know that the technology is patented, and this offers us a big advantage against our competitors. But how else can we cut through the noise and stand out? The name of the technology, as I mentioned, is called Hydro Shield, but that's not exactly a household name yet. So first, we have to, establish our credibility a little bit further there and move the needle there. Furthermore, we know that the search engine landscape for a term like t-shirts or undershirts, that's insanely competitive. As a small business, it's going to be extremely challenging to be number one for shirts or undershirts when we're going against retailers like Target or Walmart or Macy's, for example. So we know that's competitive as well. And lastly, as an e-commerce brand, a small e-commerce brand that doesn't have a footprint in brick and mortar stores, it can also be challenging to rank in the medical space as well. So if we wanted to create content around hyperhidrosis, that's technically a medical term. And when you type that into Google, you're going to find results from sites like Healthline or WebMD. So it's extremely competitive and challenging to rank for a medical related term. So with all of those challenges in mind, we knew we had a lot of hurdles to overcome. So as we started to dive deeper into our content marketing strategy, we knew that we needed to create content around the different opportunities where we could position Thompson T's undershirts as a solution to a really common problem. All right, now let's talk about what we did here. So first, and this is a best practice that I recommend across any client or any industry, no matter what you're working on. Taking an audience first approach, taking the time to truly understand your personas, who your customers are, who your audience is, and what their problems and their pain points are. We do this across the board with every client that we work with, and it's proved to be effective in creating content and messaging that really resonates with your audience. Diving deeper into that, we research and try to get a full understanding around topics that they care about most. And then piggybacking off of what Alyssa said, that's when we start to build our topic clusters. And building that requires an approach with keyword research and strategy, and then creating an editorial or content calendar to help drive and organize that process in which you create content around the keywords that you're going after. And then lastly, to create actionable, helpful content around common problems or questions, and always asking ourselves, would this audience find this content interesting or valuable? Is this something that you would want to read yourself and take away something valuable from it? And that's something that is a pattern across all the content we create as well, and we'll continue to echo this throughout our presentation. Just making sure that the content provides a lot of value. Google is favoring content that is helpful. They recently actually rolled out an update called the Helpful Content Update. So that's just a testament to show that you need to continue creating content that is helpful and valuable and that your users will find interesting. All right, let's get a little technical here. I want to show an example of how we use SEMrush in our approach to creating content and driving that strategy that I just talked about. So hopefully it's not too small, but I'll give an overview of what this entails. So here's an example of how we use their keyword tool to research topics. So in this example, we know our audience is concerned about sweat stains. So let's start here. By searching sweat stains in the keyword research tool, we come up with a big list of keyword variations, different questions, related keywords, and this at first glance gives us a glimpse into what the search landscape ultimately looks like. So up front, we see that there's a lot of questions related on how to get rid of sweat stains, which tells us that the users who are searching or thinking about sweat stains are actually more concerned with how to remove them or get rid of them. And so we know that's this right away, that we can easily create a resource on the topic, and this is where we can position Thompson T as a solution in the content as a way to prevent sweat stains. And then by drilling deeper into the full keyword list, we can expand potential ideas for topics as well. So next slide for a closer look. So here's a closer look at other relevant keywords from the same search. So I've highlighted ones that might look interesting and stick out at first glance. For example, how to get sweat stains out of hats, which has a pretty strong keyword volume of over 3,000. How to prevent sweat stains, how to get rid of sweat stains. And these two are perfectly aligned for our audience who might be new to our brand. So perhaps somebody doesn't know what a Thompson T is yet, but if they're looking for a way to prevent sweat stains and we come up on this search result, they'll see our product as a potential solution to their problem. Bingo. All right, over here, aside from sweat stains. So thinking about going back to that thing I presented in the solutions about researching topics that your audience cares about. So now we're thinking one level higher. Aside from sweat stains, what else does our audience care about? Because sweat and sweat stains are the most immediate issue, we probably know that they're using a lot of deodorant or antiperspirant, or that's like a regular product in their regimen. So let's go there. When we enter antiperspirant into our keyword research tool, we can, again, quickly pull up some really good suggestions for keyword targeted content. On this slide, we see antiperspirant versus deodorant. We see best antiperspirant for men or for women, or even questions like, is antiperspirant bad for you? And these are all really great topics that our audience would care about. And we know that we can confidently write about this and provide value to our audience. So by pulling these keywords and adding them to our editorial calendar, we've already got a slate of content that we can write about. All right, now for the fun part. Let's talk about the results and the wins that we've seen from implementing this strategy. So all that said, we've seen some really good wins over the years. We started implementing the topic cluster strategy as soon as we heard about them, which was in 2017, and we haven't looked back. And in 2017, we started ramping up that content production for Thompson T. So as you can see, our keyword ranking growth has exponentially grown since starting out. Just to give you a context of what that looks like, we've acquired over 10,000 page one blog rankings. And we're also appearing for so many other SERP, search engine results page features, such as featured snippets, appearing under people also ask, and more. And then to get a closer look at the traffic landscape, we started producing content, like I said, in 2017. So 5 years have gone by, and a lot can happen on the Google search results world in a matter of 5 years. But just to give you a look at how we're doing as of recently, this is the year-to-date snapshot for 2022. We're currently averaging over 200,000 organic monthly sessions, and this is just on the blog alone. So this doesn't include our product pages, our home pages, any other e-commerce focus pages. This is just on the content that we've produced from our strategy starting in 2017. And over the last few years, organic has been the #1 channel for Thompson T. So it's driving most of the traffic and most of the awareness for this brand. And that's all thanks to the content strategy that we've adopted. Just to give you a closer look of what some of these organic wins look like. So having over like 10,000 keywords and bringing in over 200,000 sessions kind of paints just the bigger picture. So I wanted to drill deeper into like what some of those like SERP feature wins means for our business. So featured snippets is one thing that we really focus on acquiring because it's a strong signal of authority on Google. And I wanted to share a few examples of different featured snippets that we've won. So here's one that's super relevant to our audience. We've acquired the featured snippet for how to get sweat stains out of shirts. And you can see that the snippet is in paragraph form, and it offers one potential solution about dish soap and hydrogen peroxide. But it also implies that if you dig into the article, that there's other tips and tricks you can do to get sweat stains out of your shirts. So readers who do click into the article will be introduced to the Thompson T as a solution to their problem. Going a little deeper into a different topic, so deodorant and antiperspirant. Here's another win that we got. The term, or the search term here is spray deodorant better? And while it's not directly talking about undershirts or sweat stains, it's definitely a topic that our audience would still care about. And it's still an opportunity for us to market and promote our undershirts within the article. So for example, you can wear the undershirt and use the deodorant that works best for you, and then you can get the best results that way. And then lastly, we started branching out into like more tertiary topics. So after seeing success and wins, organic wins for sweat stain related topics, deodorant and antiperspirant related topics, we started branching out even more to build more authority and saturate more of that market. So we asked ourselves, what other ways could we position our product as a solution? And how else can we provide value through different types of topics? Here's an example of that. So we wrote an article about body cooling products to use in the summer. Pretty random, but also related. We introduced Thompson Tea as one of the solutions, and we've also acquired the featured snippet for that right here.
Cool. So now we want to share one more example that's on a little bit of a smaller scale, just to show that no matter your niche and company size, this is still a viable content strategy for your business. So switching gears into managed IT services. So this is a B2B business, managed IT services provider based in Temecula. They specialize in cybersecurity, managed backup services, and IT support for small to medium-sized businesses. Historically, they operated in a local market, but started expanding nationally in around 2020. So their content strategy was pretty minimal before 2020, but the COVID pandemic actually brought a whole host of new technology related challenges to many businesses as people shifted from going into the office to going full remote. So things like mobile device management policies, cybersecurity concerns, scaling out video conferencing. These are all new challenges that Helix Storm's customers were faced with. So we saw an opportunity to provide educational content geared towards these new challenges that companies were dealing with, these new IT challenges. So in June of 2020, we started ramping up our content strategy. And when I say ramping up, it was still pretty small in comparison to some content strategies in terms of the amount of content we were producing, but I'll show you how that still worked for us. So the two topic clusters we focused on were remote IT management and managed backup services. This is a service that they wanted to focus on and earn authority for. So starting out, we started with brainstorming subtopics. So we had our clusters. Now we needed to come up with blog topics for each cluster to start building out content, getting traffic to the site. So one way to do this, SEMrush's topic research tool is really helpful for kind of kickstarting that brainstorming process. So you can type in a topic that you want to get some ideas for, and it'll populate a bunch of ideas. You can sift through them, find some good starting points. So we used things like that and did other keyword research to come up with our subtopics. Since Helix Storm is a bit smaller, they have pretty low domain authority. It's just a smaller website overall. We knew that we needed to start with kind of mid-volume keywords to have our best shot at ranking. So we aimed for 500 to 3,000 search volume on average. And then we built out our content calendar, focused on these clusters, and we wrote 2 to 3 blogs per month consistently. So not a whole lot of content, but again, it's all about quality content geared toward your audience over quantity. So as a result, we were able to grow Helix Storm's organic blog traffic by 673% over 2 years. So you can see at what point we started this new content strategy. And you can see it takes, 6 to 12 months for things to really ramp up before it starts exponentially growing at an even higher rate. So today we're seeing roughly 300 plus page one blog rankings, 40 featured snippets, 140 people also ask links. So again, just trying to cover as much of the SERP as we can and get people the answers that they're looking for, targeting those businesses that need remote IT help. And here's a few examples of those success points. So we started winning featured snippets, #1 rankings. As I mentioned, some of the more competitive rankings started coming after 6 to 12 months. And again, that was only 2 to 3 blogs a month, but very strategically planned. So now we're starting to see rankings with more of a higher difficulty and more featured snippets that are very relevant. All right, so now we want to kind of distill down everything that we talked about into 5 tips for content marketing success. So these are our tried and tested tips that can be implemented in any business. So tip number 1, start small. Write about what you know. We highly recommend focusing on 1 or 2 topics first to build that authority in your niche, and you can always branch out later. So there's some questions that we like to ask ourselves when creating topics for new clients. Number 1 is, what do we do better than anyone else? If you had to distill down your company's purpose and your best products or services, what can you confidently say you're the best at? That's a great idea for a topic cluster. Another one is, what problems and pain points are my customers searching for? Put yourself in your customer's shoes and think about, what are the problems they're facing on a day-to-day basis? What are their challenges? What types of solutions are they looking for? You can also just think, what are your best-selling products and services? If you only have 1 or 2 products, that makes your life a lot easier. If you have a lot, think about what those most important products and services are that you want to drive traffic for. And then what products and services do you want to be known for? So maybe they're not your best selling today, but you want them to be. Those are great starting points for coming up with those clusters. Tip number 2, use keyword research tools to generate content ideas for your clusters. So you can brainstorm and think all day about what your customers are searching for, put yourself in their shoes to come up with topics, and that's a helpful process. But at the end of the day, it's really helpful to do some keyword research to verify and validate that your keywords are actually being searched for and that you're using the proper terms that people are using when they Google something. So these are some of our favorites that we use all the time. SEMrush has a great keyword magic tool that Michelle showed earlier. Moz is another one. Ahrefs, Answer the Public, Google Keyword Planner. So all of these tools allow you to put in a keyword, long tail, short tail, and get ideas for it. You can get question ideas or how-to ideas. There's endless opportunities. So just get in there and start seeing what the best ones are. And then one tip that we always like to give is, make sure that you validate every topic with a quick Google search to make sure that it's actually on point. So when you have a keyword that you think is a good one, throw it in Google and see what kind of results come up. You might find that the way that Google is surfacing results is actually not what you had in mind for that keyword. One good example of that is for Helixstorm, the keyword remote IT support. That could be typed in by a company looking for a remote IT support company, or what we found is that a lot of IT support workers and employees looking for job postings would actually be typing that in. So just do a quick Google search, make sure that you're verifying that the keyword and the intent that you have in mind is correct, and that will set you up for success. Tip number 3, don't be afraid to produce content around low volume keywords, especially when you're starting out. It will be a lot easier to establish authority with low volume, less competitive keywords first, and you can gradually build up to the big ones over time. So especially if you have like a really niche product, even if the search volume that you're finding is low, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You built this product or service because there's a need for it, so people will be looking for it. If anything, it'll just drive more qualified traffic to your site if you're going after those low volume but very relevant keywords. So for example, managed backup service or cloud managed backup, fairly low volume, under 100 searches, but the people looking for that know what they need and they're going to be a little more qualified anyway. So don't be afraid to build content around these low volume keywords. And as you grow and have more traffic coming in, then you can tackle the big ones.
All right, our 4th tip here is to track content keyword performance over time, and this will help you learn what works. We recommend adding a new keyword to your list every time you publish a blog or update a blog or any other piece of content on your website. And if you have limited time and resources, this tip is really crucial because it allows you to identify and narrow your focus on efforts that matter most for your business, instead of wasting more time on keywords or content that aren't producing the results that you want or aren't working for you or your audience. So we recommend using the SEMrush position tracking tool, and we use this tool to monitor movements for all of our clients. I love this main dashboard feature because it gives you this really nice overview of traffic visibility, estimated traffic numbers, and your average position right at the top. And I always find that really cool to see how that's improved over time. And based on the little date area, you can just narrow that window or enlarge it to see that growth over time. If you are reporting to somebody or sharing your results with someone, this is a cool screenshot to add to your reports. You can also see indicators of where Google core site or algorithm updates occurred to see how those might have impacted your performance. So there's little indicators that said a core update happened here, and then you can see whether or not your traffic or keywords were impacted from that. And then digging deeper, this feature is also super cool because it allows you to assign tags with different groups. So that means you can filter keywords by topic cluster. So that's how we use it here. We categorize all keywords by their topic cluster so we can see everything in a single view. So for example, we've assigned certain keywords with the tag hyperhidrosis based on whether or not they're in the hyperhidrosis topic cluster. And then that way, when we filter it, we're able to just see the performance of the hyperhidrosis topic cluster in a single view. And then this is also really cool because you can see the movements in positions. So it'll say within the last 30 days here, this keyword has moved up 2 spots or 4 spots. And then you can also see at a glance the keyword volume, the difficulty, and exactly which page is ranking for that keyword. So it's a really comprehensive tool. I personally check it every week just to see where our movements are, and it's proved really valuable. And tip number 5, optimizations, as we mentioned, is super key. So be sure to regularly update and improve your content for best results. As Alyssa mentioned earlier, quality always triumphs quantity. So making sure you're always providing users with the best valuable content. It doesn't have, you don't have to be promoting yourself in every article that you write. It doesn't have to be a sales pitch all the time. As long as you're providing value and being helpful to readers, Google will recognize that. And that's really important to remember. So a tool that we use to kind of ensure and validate that is the SEMrush SEO content template and writing assistant, also another feature that we really love. This real-time content check allows you to enter the text from your blog or your web page, and then it provides a grade or a score on the right-hand side. And it checks for things like how good is the readability? Is this easy to understand for your audience? The SEO, how many times have you incorporated your target keyword? Originality, is this content unique or did you just copy somebody else who's ranking for the same thing? And it grades all of these things and more, and it gives you a score that's based on color, green is good, red is not as good. So you'll find opportunities on where to improve your content. It'll give recommendations, maybe make this sentence a little bit, shorten this sentence so it's a little bit easier for your audience to digest, or incorporate your keyword because you're not really doing that much throughout the content of your article. So you get these real-time recommendations, and as you make those changes and updates, you'll see the rating score change as well after you optimize and improve your content. So it'll give you all that confidence you need before you hit that publish button and know that you're putting the best content out there.
Cool. And just one more note on that, just to really emphasize this optimization strategy. For most of our clients, we're updating our top blogs at least once a year, if not more. A lot of the competitive ones, we're updating it multiple times a year. So that really cannot be understated, that if you have a ton of content and you want to improve your content strategy, start with what you have and, audit your content, figure out what's not performing as well as it should be, what keywords were you maybe trying to rank for that you're not, that you should address again. So always go back to your existing pool of content first before going after new topics, and make sure that, maybe your top 10 articles, you're looking at those on a regular, at least annual basis, and making updates to ensure that you're keeping those #1 spots and not losing any of that valuable traffic.
Yeah, just to add to that, like the search landscape changes all the time too. So like if you're searching for something today, the example Alyssa mentioned earlier about remote IT support, today it's like maybe surfacing job positions, but in a few months, Google might recognize that that's not what users are looking for, and they'll start shifting the results. So especially for the keywords that really matter the most for your business, always, run them through Google incognito to see the most like authentic results, and just to verify that the results are like what the intent is for the user, the true intent. And if your content no longer reflects that, it's time for an update.
Awesome. I think at this point we're ready for questions. I think Dale will pop back in.
We will. Oh, here we go. I'm back. I just reappear. I love that. That was a ton of useful information. I mean, there's so many useful tips. You guys touched on so much that there's so many different directions we can go from here. Now, for those of you who are tuned in to our webinar today, you can put your questions in the comments, and we will answer as many of them as we can. I know we already have a number of questions in there. But Alyssa and Michelle, before we get into it, one of the things you had touched on is the audience first approach to SEO. And what I'm curious about is, how do you do your audience research, especially in light of the context here that most of us who are doing SEO, we're starting with keyword research and looking at search volumes, and that's usually the starting point. So what does that research look like when you're taking the audience first approach?
Yeah, I can answer that. Michelle, you feel free to chime in after too. But something that we do as part of all of our engagements with clients is we do some persona research. So we typically have some persona profiles that we are doing some deeper research into even before we start a content strategy. So beyond just demographics, we're trying to think, what are their behaviors, what are their challenges and needs, and kind of laying out some criteria there. So that's really helpful. Internal team brainstorms are really helpful too. So we do a lot of those. And then, yeah, just the keyword research is a big portion of it. So personas, brainstorming, keyword research, and then always verifying your keyword research with true Google searches. So acting out that search and seeing what pops up and seeing if that's aligned with the content that you want to write.
And is there a role in there for talking to actual customers, or how does that work? Especially you guys are on the agency side, so you might not even have access to your clients' customers.
Yeah, for sure. It totally depends on the industry. I know for example with Thompson Tea, that's one that we've gotten a lot more immersed in, actually, getting samples of products, trying them on. A lot of our employees have actually worn them and seen the benefits of wearing a Thompson Tea. So like using the product yourself or giving it to other people, sharing that within your agency or your company, and getting some feedback on what they like, what it helps solve. So we get a little creative sometimes. It really depends. But yeah, I think Thompson Tea is one example where we were actually able to kind of try the product, get a lot more immersed, and put ourselves in the customer's shoes by actually wearing and trying the product.
It makes sense. And then another thing you guys mentioned that's quite intriguing is Google's helpful content update. So how should we be thinking about it? I mean, obviously we all want to write content that's helpful, right? But we also want to make sure that we're hitting the right notes in terms of like what Google's looking for. So how should we be thinking about content going forward in light of the new updates?
Yeah, so the good thing about Google is they're pretty clear about telling us what they're looking for. So it's interesting with the helpful content update. I know a lot of SEOs where that one was really built up and then there wasn't a whole lot of volatility after that. To be fair, right after the helpful content update, there was a core update and then also another product reviews update. So they've been really stacking on top of each other. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly what we can attribute to like what update. But Google does have their ranking criteria, which I actually linked on one of the earlier slides, where they bullet out exactly what they're looking for and what it means when they say they want content that's credible, trustworthy, authoritative, and helpful. So we look at that constantly. Our content team is reviewing that together on at least every few month basis, maybe a quarterly basis. and just making sure that that's always top of mind. I think if you're reviewing a piece of content and you want to be sure that it's going to rank with what Google's looking for, just having that thing bookmarked, the ranking criteria, is really helpful. And just looking like, okay, is this question, can I say that I answer this question with my content, yes or no? If no, maybe I need to revisit it, or I'm not gonna be able to get the results I'm looking for.
Right, it makes sense. And we had a number of questions about backlinks during your presentation. And I know from my experience, I could be working on a brand new website with no authority whatsoever, put up some content that I believe is very useful, but no rankings whatsoever because it's brand new, no authority. How do you guys think about link building when it comes to getting your content clusters to rank?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So what we've read and seen is that, and I have so many articles bookmarked, I wish I could remember where I saw it, but your site needs to be as close to perfect as you can get it before you should ever start pursuing a real like backlinking strategy, like an off-site linking strategy. So backlinks are great. We've honestly found the best way to do that is just to get them naturally by creating really good content that people like to read and that's helpful and shareable and engaging. So I know that's not the most straightforward answer. We'll sometimes do some outreach to get backlinks, but the content on your site needs to be fantastic before those backlinks will really start to add value on top of that.
So when you guys are doing some promotion, like is that very targeted? Are you guys spamming the web with with emails like we've all seen? Like, what does that promotion look like when you're promoting this content?
Michelle, do you want to speak to this one?
Sure. So we try to leverage our content through different marketing channels. So we do advertise them through email. We promote them on SMS for clients that do run that service. And I think just, yeah, with the whole like naturally getting backlinks by producing fantastic content, that has worked well for us. We've definitely opted into some backlinking services, bought, some of those packages that you see, trying to support our clients, doing the outreach, the organic email outreach. Hey, can we post on your blog? Hey, do you mind sharing this? And while those sometimes work, sometimes you hit the jackpot, but other times we just find that, pushing it out to our audience, really doing everything that we can to optimize that piece to ensure that it's the best content out there on the search engines. That has naturally helped us earn a lot of credible backlinks, and it continues to just like stack on top of each other, like building on that authority. So like now that we've got that featured snippet, more people are finding that and they're linking us naturally in their articles, and that's only going to add on to the credibility, and Google will just keep us there as the #1 result. And I think it's like a compounding thing that really adds value over time.
So Michelle, you mentioned featured snippets. So you guys mentioned a number of times during your presentation that you guys are optimizing for featured snippets. A lot of us who've been doing SEO for a while were pretty bummed when Google started taking our content and just displaying it on the page, thinking that we're not going to get the click. Like, how do you guys think about featured snippets? Are they worth optimizing for? Are you seeing traffic when you achieve them?
We do, actually. I think for the ones that earn featured snippets, it depends on the nature of the featured snippet as well. Some of them, you can just get the answer you're looking for by reading it, but other times it does still compel the person to click through and learn more. For example, like the slide I showed where we said like how to get sweat stains out of shirts, like different tips and tricks. The featured snippet only pulled out one tip, and maybe that's not useful for everybody, but it definitely entices users to click in and see what other options are available, because I think when you're looking for a solution to a problem, you're trying to evaluate different things that are out there. And by, being able to provide that answer and all the different types of solutions that could be potentially helpful for our users, we are seeing strong click-through rates on that too.
So during your presentation, you guys dropped 2 gems that you guys are you've been doing this for a while, your experience, but you guys walked right past it. One was examining the search results before you optimize for a keyword. A lot of us are used to finding a juicy keyword, it's relevant, high search volume. Hey, let's write an article. But what are you guys looking for when you're examining the search results before you optimize it for a keyword?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it really is just making sure that we're fully aligned with the intent, and making sure that the types of articles that are showing up is where we want to be placed and where we feel confident that we can place higher. So a lot of keywords, like I said, the intent might be different for different people. And since Google they're always putting new things and like testing out new features in the SERP. So just kind of making sure that we're on track is really important. And sometimes like when we're optimizing an article, when we do that process, we find, oh, well, no wonder our article isn't popping up anymore. It's showing product pages now. So that's one thing. It's like if we're writing a blog, we find a keyword, we put that keyword in Google, and all we see are like product pages. We don't see any educational blog content. That shows us that, okay, Google's looking for this like purchase intent or people looking to shop for products. They're not looking for long form education. So maybe we shouldn't write this blog around this keyword. So it's like, what types of results are showing up? Are they blogs? Are they resource pages? Are they product home pages or product pages? And that will tell us a lot about whether we're on track to write whatever content we had planned.
And then sometimes you examine the search results and you see that it's not web results showing up at all. It might be map listing or videos or people also ask or something like that. But I love that tip, Alyssa, because honestly, examining the search results should be as popular as like keyword research for figuring out what we should be writing about. Another one of those gems that you guys dropped was really updating existing content. And this is something from my experience where I might be working with a brand that's coming to me to help them build SEO content, but I take a look at all the content they have on their site that they haven't updated or hasn't been optimized. So what are some tips you guys can think of for updating your existing content?
Good one. I'll start. So first of all, looking at just simple SEO structure is a great place to start. I think oftentimes we stumble upon clients who have content that's at least like 5 years old. They haven't touched it at all. And it's missing heading tags. It's missing the keyword used organically throughout the content. Simple fixes like that can really go a long way. Another one is adding images. Create images that would support the content visually. Making sure to add the alt text in there as well can help you also get noticed in image search results. So those are some quick win opportunities. And then aside from that, just improving the content overall, making sure it's well written. Content you may have wrote 5 years ago, maybe that wasn't your best work. Now it's time to give it a little update. And also just, again, the search intent piece, making sure that today's search intent aligns with what you're writing about.
Yeah, that makes sense. That kind of reminds me, like one piece of advice we hear a lot when we're writing SEO content is to shoot for a length. So I used to hear 500 words, 1,000 words, 2,000 words, no, 20,000 words. So how do you guys think about that when we know what Google's looking for is helpful, useful content? But how do you guys think about length?
Yeah, well, that's definitely been like an up and down kind of debate over the years, but at least most recently and with this helpful content update, Google's really not looking at length anymore. That's technically not a ranking criteria. Length is not something that they care about in their algorithm. Is this content helpful and does it answer the question? So certain topics you might be able to answer that question in a really short, to the point piece of content that gives that user what they're looking for. Sometimes it might be more in depth. So we still look at what's on page 1 and kind of see like the average length and take that into consideration when we're creating our content. But it's not like a hard and fast rule. And so we're kind of going away from length and more of like, what do we need to give the user to fully comprehensively get them the information that they're looking for?
Amen, Alyssa. No, I love that because so many people ask that question. It's like, no, it needs to be useful. So it makes a lot of sense. One thing I'm curious about is, are there any other best practices that you guys can think of that are just no longer relevant or less relevant?
That's a good question. I think in general, we still use keywords. Keywords are still very valuable. But in terms of like, your keyword has to be in the header and the meta description and your H2s and this many times, like that really isn't important anymore. It's or like in the URL, like those types of things. We kind of use it as a guide, but it's not, again, not like a hard and fast rule. It's really the contextual, the way that you're using the keywords and different variations to exhaustively cover a topic. So in general, keywords are a little bit less important. It's more, again, that context related keywords that you're using. Yeah. Can you think of anything else, Michelle?
Yeah, I think making your content unique is definitely like a challenge for many marketers and writers. And it's kind of easy to just type your keyword into Google, look at the top search results and replicate what they're doing. And I think that's a strategy that used to work, sort of, but Google has gotten a lot smarter now, and they can understand whether or not your content is one of a kind. And I think being able to not just regurgitate what everyone else is putting out there, but adding your own spin on it, or your own, adding some more insight. For example, say you're writing about like the 10 best antiperspirants, instead of just copying like what's on the brand's like product description, adding your own perspective on it, that can go a long way in making your content a lot more unique and valuable. And Google is definitely starting to notice that. So that's something else to keep in mind.
No, I love that, especially if you're promoting products that appear elsewhere on the web. You don't want to have exactly the same product description. What's interesting about that situation is Google doesn't need you at that point, and you might not even get indexed at all. So Grace put a question in the comments that I love, because this kind of gets to my thinking around this topic. A lot of times when SEOs are thinking about content, and when we think about SEO content, we're thinking about blog articles, and we're really stuck in that context, or that I don't know, prison. We can only think about articles for our SEO content. Is there anything else that would work for the topic clustering strategy that you guys are talking about, other than just blog articles?
Yeah, for sure. Something that we like to do with our pillar pages is, instead of writing it as a blog article, we make like an interactive resource page that is a lot more, there's more like design elements. It's a lot more engaging. You can kind of navigate it. It's kind of like a master table of contents, or like a hub of content that then you can link out to blogs, or even landing pages. Maybe you have like downloadable content and you have that on a landing page. Relevant product pages. Like, a lot of the topic clusters approach is some kind of educational content, but it doesn't just have to be strictly blogs. So with pillar pages, like I mentioned, that can be anything. That can be a blog, that can be a resource page. Maybe you have like a resource center with lots of different types of content. So you can get creative with it. It just needs to be that page that you're trying to drive the most traffic to, or even like a product or service page.
And so that leads us into the next question that we have here in the comments, is about converting that traffic. So we've talked for the last hour about a number of different ways to create the right content, attract organic traffic from Google, but we all need to convert it at the end of the day to get paid. So how do you guys think about conversion?
Yeah, Michelle, do you want to speak a little to that with Thompson T and how we've been able to drive actual revenue from those blogs?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, it's really hard to convert someone just off of a blog. We find that the conversion rates for just purely organic blog traffic is low, and that's an industry average. I would say it's below 1% actually. Very rarely would somebody just stumble onto your blog for the first time and then end up making that purchase right away. If they do, they're a unicorn customer. But for most of the time, that kind of requires like a lot of retargeting over time. So, you know, once someone lands on your blog, the cookie starts to follow them, and then if you have a paid media strategy in place, they might get retargeted later on, and they'll see that brand again on an ad or on their Instagram or Facebook or something, and then they'll be like, oh, I remember reading an article from this brand, and they'll click onto it, they'll become that paid traffic, and then eventually they'll convert. So that's most often the success we've seen with Thompson Tea is that that revenue that's generated over like a longer period of time. So anywhere from like 30 to 90 days, or more even. So content is such an important piece of the pie because it's like the first touch point for many users when they're looking for a problem. And it takes time for them to evaluate what the solutions are and whether they want to make that purchase or not, for the average consumer. So content's just the best way to get in front of them first as the first touch point. And then with the other like marketing channels all working in place together, you'll eventually get that purchase and that long-term value from that customer.
What I think is so interesting about what you're saying, Michelle, is you're describing an indirect conversion path
Yes.
for organic traffic. Is there a scenario where direct conversion, like conversion on the first visit, is a reasonable expectation for content marketing?
Yeah, especially for related topics. So I think like when we're thinking about the examples that I shared, how to prevent sweat stains, that's like our product is a direct solution to that. So I think on articles like that, we'll tend to see lots of higher conversions, a higher conversion rate. When we do product related content, such as we've ranked the best sweatproof undershirts, we tend to see that one convert really high as well. But if we're just talking about antiperspirant or like, you know, products to wear in the summer to keep your body cool, that's less likely to result in a conversion. But again, going back to that indirect conversion path I mentioned, that's what those articles are there to help us do.
Wow. There's just so much there. We have more questions. We couldn't get to everybody. Alyssa and Michelle, what is the right way for people to reach out to you if they want to know more about what you're doing at Human, or maybe they have another SEO question? What's the right way to find you guys?
Yeah, so you could welcome to check out our website for more info, or I mean, you're welcome to email us. My email is just alyssa@human.marketing. Happy to provide more info or shoot you in the right direction if you have specific questions. And then I know that this is being recorded and will be available on YouTube after this as well if you need to revisit or catch up.
And then Michelle, what's the right way to get in touch with you?
Likewise, reach out to me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email. Like we mentioned before, Human provides full services. So if you have a question that's even not content or SEO related, or maybe kind of ties into that, we can help you with that as well, or point you in the right direction to one of our agency experts.
Well, sounds good. And I know I heard an email address there, so I can feel your email account being bombed as we speak. My name is Dale Bertrand, so I'm at Fire and Spark. I'm Dale at fireandspark.com. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I want to thank SEMrush for hosting this webinar. I learned something. So Alyssa, Michelle, thank you. That was awesome. And hopefully we get a chance to do it again. And for everybody who tuned in, or maybe you're watching this on the recording, thank you for tuning in, because your participation makes this worthwhile so that we can do more of these types of events.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, SEMrush.